Hello everybody, it is the me, GamePango21, and today, Harman Smith. Oh boy. Harman Smith is one of those people who continuously and is a recurring character on this channel, as well as in many other Salt-type centric channels. But this one caught my eye because someone else decided to talk about this. Now, of course, this is talking about the Kadokawa deal, which is a little bit of an old news, but so a little bit of an update, as I did do a video on this. A little bit of an update on that. Apparently, the talks and the rumors were actually kind of verified, and they are currently, apparently, going forward with the idea, or at least they're in talks to do so. That's a little bit scary, considering that, again, the anime industry, at least in terms of distribution, say, in places like America, oh boy, it's about to get a lot weirder and a lot more, I guess, strict in some cases. It's just a big mess, but also, of course, From Software is there. And, again, From Software is being one of the last few-ish remaining people, other than maybe some of the indie ones, in the sort of AAA space, where they are, you know, basically doing whatever the heck it is that they are doing. Now, again, that's more or less how the story has evolved over the time. Not really much else outside of that, as far as we're aware. So, yeah. But of course, we're here to talk about the gaming side of things, and Harman Smith, hinted of himself, is seemingly more or less the same uninformed-ish Harman Smith there. There is some kernels of truth in what he is saying, but they're so buried under the amount of just delusion and, well, the Nintendo fanboy centricness of his entire channel and his entire ethos and personality that, essentially, this is one of, if not the more interesting things here. With that being said, let's get started with this video. It's about 3 minutes long, so this intro is a little bit longer, but let's just see, apparently, how Sony is to acquire From Software, and how apparently fanboys are in denial.
There's coping, there's seething, and there's whatever the FromSlop fanboys are doing right now in regards to the inevitable Sony acquisition of Kadokawa, and by extension, From Software. So as a result of that, everything, all the talent, all of the franchises they work on, it's all going to belong to Sony. And it's almost immediately going to shit. And everybody knows this. Sony doesn't have a good track record with this kind of thing. Just look at Destiny. But right now, people...
Destiny in and of itself is a very different case, but the purchasing of Destiny, I don't think was the result... the downfall of Destiny, at least Destiny 1 or 2... mainly 2, is not necessarily the fault of Sony. It seemingly is that Bungie has hit a kind of snag in it, and they wanted to get some sort of out card or some sort of cushion effect, I guess. But I don't blame Sony for that. Bungie was really only ever had Destiny in and of itself, and Bungie, this is not the same Bungie that worked on like the Halo games or Destiny 1. I don't think that it's the same Bungie, but they haven't produced anything, which is kind of concerning considering that it's been like, what, 3 or 4 years since the actual purchasing of it, and all that we have is a cinematic trailer for Marathon, which is more of a concept than anything else right now, and it's like an online extraction shooter, which I'm here for. I would like to see a good online extraction shooter, but we haven't seen any gameplay, which makes me think that it's not gonna be good. And a lot of the other Sony, at least current developers in that context, haven't been doing great. I mean, what has Naughty Dog been doing? What has some of the other stuff that has been doing? What has the Sunset Overdrive people, was it Splash Damage? I don't think it was Splash Damage. There's a couple other people. But yeah. And again, I think the biggest example of them just not being good in this year has definitely been Concord, which I don't think that they'll ever live down. So I'm not disagreeing with you on that. But them trying to acquire From Software might just be a bonus on top of them trying to actually acquire a lot of the anime distribution rights, which some people are like, oh, well, that's not actually how that thing kind of works, because Kadokawa does actually distribute it. You can look it up on the internet. It's very apparent. But From Software, going back to them, one of the things that a lot of, again, fanboys have been talking about, that I brought up in another video, which I'll just go over quickly, is that they were there for, quote, the birth of the Souls genre, which I wouldn't say it was helped by Sony, like, at all. They were the ones kind of signing the checks, and they vehemently didn't want that. And I don't think that all of their stuff is immediately going to go to shit. I mean, all the games that have already been released are still vastly, vastly amazing and beautiful and wonderful, despite the fact that Sony's involvement is there. And again, unsure if Sony will make it so that way From Software can put some of that stuff into their other games, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see. Maybe even FromSoft will somehow get a way out of that, because I believe Miyazaki has been kind of wanting to become independent, which all the more power to him. I think he will get a lot more people out there, and will probably make a lot more money. But again, I'm not sure if he's there for the money. It's one of those cool things. In any case.
Or in denial about like lots of really critical things. You know, Sony's bad track record, their inability to manage properties or brands. You know, whether or not this is gonna go like exclusive, it really doesn't matter. The game is done anyway. And I think the most like important thing, the most relevant thing to this discussion, the most important thing at this stage is the complete denial about why Sony is acquiring Kadokawa. Because everyone wants you to think
it's for the anime industry. That's not really like, you know, being misconstrued or anything. A lot of people have seen Sony slowly trying to take over distribution, at least in the West, in terms of anime for years at this point. So, yeah. But again, I do like the little jab that he attempts to do where he's like, oh, well, the game's already finished and done anyway. It's like, yes, it is. It was delivered, and it's already, sold to the complete and sheer amount of copies and made all the money. And it's still kind of making money because it's still pretty good and it's still a very well-established thing. It's the same thing with the Halo games, where I played the Halo games for free, the demo version, in a LAN party at my school library years after its release, and I believe 2006. I think it was 10 years after. And it was still really good and well designed, and it was still fun to play. The art that you create later in your life does not necessarily demean the art that you created before that. The art that you created before that is definitely art that is, good in and of itself, if it's good in and of itself, but if it's bad and can show improvement and things like that. It's not a game, and the fact that you're still kind of salty about Elden Ring and the From Software games because they had a Game of the Year award is still really funny, coping about it years later.
That actually it's because Kadokawa is a really big company and they control all this. No. They specifically want From Software. They've made this very clear in the
They don't necessarily, and you don't know that.
Past. They raised their stake in them some time ago, they were pressuring them to sell, right? But nobody involved was interested, and so Sony is attempting a straight up takeover. They're gonna buy out.
No, they are still in it for the anime industry, and while they did or might have increased their shares for whatever reason, I really don't think that it's just for From Software. From Software, again, might be a bonus, as again a lot of people have pointed out. The anime industry is actually making them a fairly decent amount of money. And, From Software is just one of the developers in there. I don't know if Kadokawa even owns more than just From Software. They might own a couple other people, though I am not too certain about that.
The company that owns FromSlop, just to have Elden Ring as their big thing on PlayStation, right? You overhyped Elden Ring.
Nah, but Elden Ring is already on PlayStation and it's already on other stuff. What is your point here? It already sold a lot of copies there. I'm confused.
You presented it as the greatest thing ever, and as a result of that, Sony wants in on that. They swooped in like a hawk, and they're gonna try and take advantage of this company and its audience. And I suppose this is going to be a reoccurring pattern every single time any third-party game reaches any kind of relevancy at all, right? You saw it with Helldivers, you saw it with Final Fantasy back in the day, Metal Gear Solid. Sony gets increasingly more and more involved until the product is just a shell of its former self, and that nobody really cares about it anymore, right? And
I mean, that was different. Both of those were very different. I think that the Helldivers IP, they just kind of owned for whatever reason, and they were trying to do a simultaneous PC and PS5 release to kind of maybe test the waters with a game that wasn't as popular as it was, and then when it just exploded, they tried to, push to it. And what's interesting about that is that they actually decided to listen to the customers and, like, not put the PSN requirements in and make it optional, but they did, however, pull it off of the market of over, like, 100 different countries, which sucks for a number of reasons, because, again, it's just stupid that they pulled it for dumb reasons. But for, like, Final Fantasy, they weren't necessarily involved with that, because I think that was more a decision of, it's not THQ, it's a different company. You know the company that it is, Square Enix. That's the one. From Square Enix's perspective, where they were saying that they would be working exclusively with PlayStation, and that whole thing actually made their games kind of downturn, not because of Sony, but because they were exclusive and because they didn't have such a wide audience to pull from. And the console market wasn't growing as big as people thought that it would. So there's a lot more factors there. And what's also funny about that is that it got so bad that Square Enix decided to pull their exclusivity contract, or pull their exclusivity stuff off of that, and put their games on other platforms. So that's more of a Square Enix L than a Sony L. So trying to attribute the two is stupid. It had nothing to do with that, which is the funniest part, if you really think about it. But yeah, no. Again, a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, because Kadokawa is a bigger company and they're going for the anime industry. Yes, they are. Sony themselves are also a very big company that they've been trying to do a number of different things. Like, they literally bought both Funimation and Crunchyroll. Both of those were the biggest distributions in the Western market, and they kind of combined the two to one location where you can get all of your anime, so they can control a lot of where the anime is distributed from and make all the money off of the anime industry, or the anime distribution, I should say, not the industry itself. So,
FromSlop fans, like, acting as like this is like FromSlop is such a big deal that, like, it won't possibly affect them. They are being delusional. And I think, like, trying to gaslight people into thinking the acquisition is because, like, for all of Kadokawa, instead of, like, being specifically because of FromSlop, they are completely missing the point. They are completely missing what Sony is actually.
I mean, you can literally turn that on yourself, where you're missing the point because Kadokawa is a bigger company, or not a bigger company, but, like, definitely a huge company that has a lot of moving parts to it. Saying that it's exclusively for this one thing in the gaming sphere because, like, that's the biggest thing in the gaming sphere ignores probably about, like, I don't know, maybe 70%, if not more, or if not less, or no, definitely more. It's like 70 to like 20 to 30% is the actual, like, chunk that maybe From Software does. I don't know the distribution specifically. I don't know if they own any other, like, gaming companies, if they do, or game devs. If they do, I will definitely eat my words on that. But again, Kadokawa is more than just the FromSoft publisher guys, or the FromSoft people. Like, they have other things. They have anime distribution. I think that they have distribution rights for both the shows as well as, like, the merchandising, which I believe is correct. I'm not too certain. If you ever watched any anime and seen that Kadokawa logo, yeah, you kind of get what I'm saying here. Anyway, moving on.
Trying to do. They are deliberately just covering their eyes, like, see no evil, if I don't admit the truth, then it's not real. Like, it is a complete joke. It really does need to be acknowledged.
I love this because it's such projection. Holy Jesus.
People really do need to point this out. People really do need to address this. Sony is going to acquire FromSlop, and there's no amount of Elden Ring copies that you can buy that will prevent this from happening.
Now, again, I'm not too certain on the actual notion of that, whether or not that's true. Again, the talks do seem to be going forward, so it does seem to be likely that they are going to, unfortunately, be acquired. But it's not just for From Software. It's for the entirety of Kadokawa. And there are ways that people have suggested to From Software that they can possibly get out of it before the acquisition of all of Kadokawa has happened. Like, people would still support the company of From Software because of how good of they are at developing video games. It's not the end-all, be-all of like, oh, it's just for From Software and that's it. Because again, that also ignores the fact that Sony is also a big company that has a bunch of shit other than gaming. You know what else they make? They made things like the Walkman, which I think that they still distribute, though unsure. They made things like audio stuff. They bought things like AKG, which I have a pair of sitting next to me. They make audio stuff for like big speakers and things like that. They make more than just video games. And they also have like distribution of their film industry as well as their film for things like that. Like, they own the rights to Spider-Man the film, and like that's why you see whenever the next movie of the Spider-Verse comes out, which I fucking hope comes out soon. God damn it, I need to see that third movie. But you know what I mean. Like, they literally teamed up with Lego for Lego Horizons. They have a lot of things other than gaming going on because they are a big company. Same thing with Microsoft. Microsoft has a lot of things that goes on other than just gaming. Kadokawa has a lot of things going on other than gaming. So just saying like, oh, this is exclusively for From Software ignores a lot of other factors that might incur onto the purchase of, say, Kadokawa or, say, other things. When Xbox acquiring Activision, yes, that's a move for the gaming industry. When Sony acquired Bungie, that is a move for the gaming industry. When Sony acquires Kadokawa, there's a lot more at stake there. So, yeah. But saying that there's nothing we can do about it is kind of true, but also kind of false. And overall, again, this just is another nail in the thing of Harman just completely misinterpreting and misunderstanding the news of everything. But I think that'll about do it for this episode of me ranting into a microphone about someone who is clearly delusional with themselves. If you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form, links down to everything in the description below. If you want to support me here on the channel, like and subscribe is always enough. But hopefully I want to increase the channel members so people can actually get paid to do this. But whatever, it's fine. I don't care. I make these videos just to entertain you guys because you guys are awesome, and I love all of y'all, and all of y'all are amazing and wonderful. But with that being said, thank you all again so much for watching. My name is GamePango21, and a peace off.